Hey there, welcome to my channel. I am Bryna Shields. I'm an artist and surface designer based in Portland, Oregon. And today I wanted to share with you an exercise that I've been doing a lot lately in my art practice, which is color studies. Part of the reason that I'm doing this is because I have kind of been using a very similar color palette for a lot of my work over the last 5 or 6 years. And one of my goals for 2024 was to expand my use of color. I don't want to completely abandon my typical color palette, which is a lot of like hot pink and purples and blues. I still want to keep that, but I wanted to expand my habits a bit. I've been doing these color studies, and it's a really fun practice. Even if you've been working with color for a long time, I still think there's a lot of value in doing these exercises just to see different paints have different properties. And I've noticed that it's really opened up the creative possibilities in my brain a lot more, just kind of like playing purely with color and seeing where each paint color can really go, like pushing it to its limits. So I'm going to share with you, we're going to explore two different types of greens that I'm really enjoying using right now, which is the olive color from the Acryla Gouache line and the green gold color from the Liquitex Professional line. Both of these look pretty similar, but I feel like when you mix them with other colors, you start to see like these really interesting things start to happen. So I thought it would be a cool opportunity to kind of see where we could take these. So let's get started. Okay, so today I'm going to be using this Fabriano multimedia or mixed media sketchbook. I really love the thickness of the paper in it. I started this to use mostly for pencil sketches for my tarot deck, which I'll talk about in a different video. But then once I finish that, it holds the paint really well. So this is like one of the other color studies that I did previously. But yeah, I really love this paper for doing color studies. So that's what I'll be using today. And so I'm going to start with the olive acrylic gouache color. So the way that I've been doing these color studies is I'll start out with just the basic regular color. So you can see there's like some nice gold coming through in like the undertone of this paint, which is really beautiful. So you can start just seeing just how the paint on its own looks. And I also have a pencil, which I love like taking notes on this to like see. So this is the olive. And I'd always recommend having a nice blob of white when you're doing these color mixing experiments. Let's see what this looks like with white. And you can do it like right next to the blob you just made. So that's nice that you can, when you add white, you can also start to see like some of the properties. Like this turns a little bit more, like there's a lot of yellow in this green, and you can start to really see that when you add the white. Then I'll usually add like, this is the olive plus white. And then I set up this whole little like mini rainbow of colors to try. So I'm gonna play around with mixing these with the olive green. So this first one that I'm trying is the Liquitex Ultramarine Blue Red shade. So let's see what happens when we mix that with the olive. So pick up some of the green and then mix it with some of that blue. Ooh. And I also, this is something that I have to keep reminding myself of, is to not make too many judgments before you actually put the paint down on paper. I have a tendency to do that where when I'm mixing colors, like I might preemptively decide that I don't really like it. But then when I put it on the paper, I really love it. So I would say just, you don't have to love every color that you mix. This is all just an experiment to see, like, that's a really nice, rich, like dark army green color. That's really nice. So that kind of brings, you can also, since this is the red shade, it is starting to look a little bit warmer than the original. So then I'll say olive plus ultramarine blue red shade. And then again, you can go back and add some white to that to see what what it will look like with the white. That's like kind of a nice muted, like mossy green. So already we're getting some really nice options, and we've only mixed 3 colors so far. Next, I'm gonna go in with this smalt blue, which is also an Acryla gouache color. See what happens with that. Pick up some of the olive, some of the smalt blue. So this is kind of looking like, this looks like a fun color. Ooh. That's very nice. And then let's see what it looks like with the white. That's really nice. It's kind of like a almost a gray, but with a nice undertone, like a cool undertone. I've been wanting to experiment with more muted tones in my work because a lot of my work I use a lot of bright colors. And I love that, but I think the bright colors will pop a lot more if they're anchored with some of these more muted colors. This is the smalt blue. What I've been doing as well is, like, once you start getting multiple colors on your palette, then I like to kind of like play around with how these color combinations work together. So, you can make these colors just on their own, but then start to play with like how they interact with each other. So that can spark some additional inspiration for different color palettes that you might want to use in the future. So yeah, we'll maybe do like a couple mini color studies down here before we move on. And you can just kind of like do these like random blobby forms. Sometimes I like to lay out like a few on the page because then you can mix like different mini palettes on here. Um, and I might even, for some of them, like see, like that's kind of a nice color combination. And then come in with this, like that. It's starting to look really nice. So then you can start to see how these colors interact with each other. I just love this olive. I feel like it's very versatile with the colors that I've mixed it with. Like, I can't wait to show you what it looks like with fluorescent pink. It's really cool. So next, let's try it with this light blue violet and see how that looks. This one always has trouble coming out. Okay. Pick up some olive green. Should have poured more paint out. But there's lots of colors that I want to get through. So that's interesting. That's almost starting to look like this one, which is with the olive and ultramarine. But it's always fun to experiment with this and just see like what different paints in your collection can do, because you never know. So now let's play with some of these. Let's do this phthalo turquoise. This is from Nova Color, and I love this shade of turquoise. So I'm curious to see what it will be like with the olive. I think it will be a really interesting combination. All right. I'm gonna have to pour out more olive. I have a tendency to use like too little paint because I'm really afraid of wasting colors. But you also don't want to have too little paint because then it'll dry out. You don't want that either. So this is a nice color. And let's bring in some of that white. Oops. Whoops, let's make sure that we label these. I've definitely gotten really far into some of these color studies and then forgotten to label, and then I don't remember what they were. So don't forget to label as you go. So my phone accidentally stopped recording and I didn't notice, but the only thing we missed is this is the color that we get when we mix the brilliant purple and the olive together. You get this interesting earthy tone. And then I mixed it with some of the little color combinations down here. And I really love how this came out because, you know, I use this color all the time in my work. It's a very bright purple, but you can see when you mix it with this olive green, it makes this really beautiful, like earthy tone, which I find to be really, really interesting. So this is what I mean about just kind of like experimenting, pushing outside of your color limits. You don't have to like completely get rid of your typical colors that you use, but adding some new interesting colors that maybe you haven't used in the past can really start to push your work in a new direction, which is why I love doing these color studies. So let's see what happens when we add this fluorescent pink to the olive green. I was using this in a painting the other day, and I thought it was really cool how it came out. So it's quickly become one of my favorite color combinations. So I want to show you what that looks like. All right, so we'll pull in some of this olive green and then mix it with the fluorescent pink. So I love this. It creates this like really nice burnt orange color, which I think is like gorgeous. And if you, that's kind of on the more pink spectrum, but we could kind of muddying up my colors now, but could bring in some more of that green. It makes it a little more like more golden almost. So then you could make a note to note that this is like more olive and this is more pink. So then you can kind of start to see like the variety that you get from the color balance of playing around with using more of one color or the other. And then of course we can bring in some white to that. I'm being very non-scientific at this point, but you get the idea. You don't have to be super exact. See, now it's like really pulling out that more like yellowy tone from the print or from the paint, sorry. I just am so endlessly fascinated by seeing all the variety of colors you can get from just like this one green can create so many different possibilities. It's been a very inspiring part of the process to just kind of see what new color combinations I might want to use in my work. How can I use my typical colors like this hot pink and the purples in new and unexpected ways? Like, does that work? And you know, sometimes some of these color studies might show ways that you don't want to combine the colors, and that's really helpful information as well. So I find so much value in doing these color studies. Maybe I'll do the magenta as well, since that is a color that I use a lot. This is deep magenta that we're going to be using. Add a little more olive green up here. See, this is one of those instances where when it's on the palette, it looks like a color I'm not going to like, but you never know until you put it down on the paper. So let's see. Yeah, see, on the paper, I like it a lot more than I did on the palette. So Never be too quick to judge. It needs a little more white. I don't love it as much mixed with the white, but I do love how it's coming out with just the magenta and olive. I think that looks really lovely. Be a nice earth tone. So we can bring that into some of these. That's pretty cool. Let's see. What will it look like with this? Oh, and don't forget to label like I do. I can never write olive. Okay. Some of this. This is Turner's yellow. So let's see how that interacts with the olive. I'll be curious since the since the olive is kind of already a yellow tone. Make it a really nice yellowy green or maybe lime almost. Maybe that is still feeling pretty olivey when it's on the paper. Plus white. Let's see. Might need to add way more yellow because it's this is like a semi-transparent yellow, so maybe that's why it's looking so similar. But that's why we experiment. And I think for the last one, we'll try this Pyrrole. I think that's how you say it. Pyrrole orange, which I love this color on its own, but let's see what it looks like with the olive. All right. Last one. Still feels pretty orangey. Maybe I didn't put enough of the olive in there. Or maybe that's just the way it is for this color. It actually kind of looks similar to the what's happening with the fluorescent pink a little bit. There we go. Yeah, these are looking pretty similar, which is interesting. So then, all right, so we've done all the colors that I think we're gonna do for this, for the olive. So now you can come down here and just kind of play around with different palettes with whatever's on your, whatever's left on your color palette, just to give you some ideas of where you might want to take your work next. Ooh. I love this smalt blue. So nice. And like, don't be afraid of making combinations that you don't end up liking, because that is helpful information as well. It's all just about giving yourself some space to play and make new discoveries. This turquoise is one of my favorites as well. Ooh, look how nice that looks with these like earthy greens. That's pretty cool. That could be kind of interesting with these, but maybe not. I don't know. Might have to experiment a little bit more with that, but so yeah, look at all of these varieties that you get just from one, all stemming from mixing with one color. You can get a lot of variety and inspiration. Okay, so next we'll try this.